Welcome back to the study of the second chapter of Hatha Yoga Pradipika of Swatmarama. In the first chapter, he used Yama and Niyama as preparations essentially to deal with asanas. Different asanas he described effectively. In the second chapter, he elaborated kriyas, the 6 cleansing techniques to get prepared for the pranayama. And therefore, it is the second section of the second chapter in which he deals with pranayama, and we can say that it is the third limb of the Shadanga Yoga of the Hatha Pradipika dimension that he talks about here. So, pranasya ayamaha pranayama, that's the word pranayama comes. Gaining mastery over the prana is the pranayama dimension. So, to gain mastery over prana, which is known as pranayama, helps in gaining mastery over the mind. That's how it leads to the control of the Raja Yoga. So, how to control the prana? The manifestation of prana is in the form of breathing. So, you control the breathing, and thereby you control the prana, thereby you control the mind and go to the higher dimension. This is the whole sequence that comes up there. Normally, in the Upanishad lore and the Yoga lore, we are all familiar that we have 5 layers, 5 bodies. And the first body is the gross physical body called the Annamaya Kosha. Then slightly bigger than that is the Pranamaya, the Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya Koshas. And immediately next to that, slightly bigger than the physical body, is the Pranamaya Kosha. And if our physical body is made out of the muscle fibers, made out of the bones and the blood vessels and others, the Pranamaya Kosha, the subtle body, which is normally not seen, it is the subtle body, is all made out of the nadis, that is the channels of prana. There are a large number of such nadis which make this as a nice network, and 72 lakh nadis or 72 crores of nadis make this entire Pranamaya Kosha. And the prana in various forms, it flows through these nadis. And it has been identified there are 5 pranas, pancha pranas, which flows through these different channels, and they bring about the changes in the function of the body. Taking support of the Prashnopanishad, it is said, Mukhanasya Nasikabhyam Pranaswayam Pratisthate, Prana, Apana, Samana, Udana, Vyana are the 5 functional manifestations of prana in the Pranamaya Kosha. They govern all the functions in the physical body. The prana in the highest level deals with all the actions that go on in this area. That is the thinking, the seeing, the smelling, the tasting, and all these things happen here. Then we have the samana, which deals with the digestive system and brings the balance. Then apanam pratyagasyati. The apana is the one that takes care of the peristaltic process, the urination, the excretion, and other lower forms of this thing. And the udana is the one that takes care of all the upper things, anti-peristaltic process, vomiting, belching, and in the subtle form, that is the one that builds the kundalini, jagrati, and takes the kundalini to the higher heights. And vyana is the one that supports all portions and is responsible for the sense of touch. So these are the 5 pranas which govern all functions in our physical body. So that is the concept that has been developed in our Upanishads. And in tune with that, we need to gain control and mastery over all these 5 pranas. And particularly, the most important is the prana in this region governed by the breathing. Therefore, it is very, very important that we learn the process of gaining control and mastery over the breathing. Therefore, Patanjali in his sutra, he says, Shwasa Prachwasayoho Gati Vicheda Pranayamaha. He said, you have the control and mastery over the breathing practices that have been put forth in the dimension. And therefore, the pranayama starts with the cleansing. the first step is to bring the cleansing of the respiratory tract. So that's called as the Kapalabhati that we have seen. Then we have got the sectional breathing, which normalizes our breathing. And from there you go to the pranayama for slowing and balancing the dimension. So what is the first step? It is the fast breathing. 120 strokes per minute. You do exhalations followed by automatic inhalation. This is the speed with which the Kapalabhati is practiced, and it is both nostril. It could be alternate nostril also. So this is how we can bring the balance between the two nostrils along with the Kapalabhati and that the dimension we talked about. This fast breathing technique normally is invigorating, and it has this sympathetic stimulation, and it increases the metabolic rate, cleanses the whole body, especially the respiratory tract is cleansed in the whole process, and there is what we call as the desensitization of the oversensitive reflexes. That's the first step. Then we come to normalization of the breath. The normal speed of breathing is 15 to 18 breaths per minute. And because of the wrong habits and the lifestyle, our breathing habits also have become haywire. So what has happened? There is high speed breathing. Normal breathing 18, and you have more speed. 22, 23, 25, 28, 30 breaths per minute. Very shallow breathing. And the haphazard breathing. And the jerky breathing, the shallow breathing. All these things have to be corrected before we go to the next level. Therefore, the method is known as the abdominal breathing, thoracic breathing, and the clavicular breathing. Therefore, the Udara Shwasa, Urashwasa, or the clavicular breathing, Griva Shwasa. And once we learn this to work in sections, we must use all these things for the full yogic breathing. And gradually our system should see that you have the full yogic breathing. How to do that? First observe your abdominal breathing. As you inhale, see whether the breath is, abdomen is coming forward or backwards. In some people, the abdomen goes inside as you breathe in. And when you breathe out, it comes out. Wrong. You have to correct that. As you breathe in, abdominal muscles should come forward. As you breathe out, abdominal muscles should go inwards. That is the dimension that is talked about. When you do that, there is the recti muscles is going to go up and come down to suck the air down to every part of the lungs. Then in thoracic breathing, you expand the capacity. Inhale and expand the thorax, and exhale and bring it down. In clavicular breathing, you expand the chest and take the shoulder up. Therefore, more air will go into the upper clavicles and comes back. And this is the set of 3 practices we can normalize the breathing and brings about. This is the dimension. Then we come to the pranayama. And in this pranayama, we have 2 schools. One which has been promoted by Hatha Yoga by the Swatmarama, another the Vasishtha school. What is the difference? The difference between the 2 schools are in the process of the Kumbhaka. The objective is same, that is to slow down the breath and see that you have complete stoppage of the breath. Kevala Kumbhaka, effortless stoppage of the breath is the goal of both the schools. How to do that? 2 ways in which you can do that. One is you inhale, hold the breath. Exhale, hold the breath. Therefore, the number of breaths per minute automatically is come down. This is called as the Kumbhaka Pranayam. The second one is you don't do forcefully holding of the breath. Slowly breathe in and slowly breathe out. Slowness. Go on doing that. And in the turning, automatically the breath stops effortlessly. This is the second thing. So, either of these methods can be used to slow down the breathing, which is the essence of pranayama. But when you do the Kumbhaka Pranayama, as has been mentioned, in Hatha Pradipika, it's all called as the Kumbhakas. The Kumbhakas are a must. Holding up the breath is a must in the Hatha Yoga system. Without Kumbhaka, there is no pranayama. And when you do that, it is very, very important that we have to master the bandhas and the mudras, essentially the bandhas. So, the Jalandhara bandha, Uddiyana bandha and Mula bandha, they are called the three bandhas, have to be completely mastered before you go into the Kumbhaka. That has been mentioned. Therefore, the next thing, when you have the mudras and the bandhas are a must which have to be done. If you don't do that, if you do the Kumbhaka pranayama, you may end up with problems. And we have a large number of people who have practiced this without understanding, without taking to the proper bandhas. They do the Kumbhaka pranayama, they end up with the problems. But in the Vasishtha school, there is no such danger at all. You slowly breathe in and breathe out. These are the dimensions. So therefore, in Hatha, Swatmarama gives the complete indications and the directions, and what is to be done, what is not to be done has been prescribed. You have to control your food, you have to have proper behavior, and you have to isolate and practice regularly. All these things have been prescribed by Swatmarama, and in the process, a person who wants to practice Kumbhaka pranayama will get the guidance of his teacher. The Guru will direct him. Only under the guidance of the Guru he is going to do that. If you don't do that, you may end up with danger. Therefore, Hatha Pradipika talks about the different Kumbhakas. So, Nadi Shodhana. Then we have the Ujjayi, we have the Shitali, Shitkari, Sadanta, Brahmari. These are all the different Kumbhakas that have been talked about in the pranayama. So what you do here is the alternate nostril breathing. Go on doing that. As you inhale, hold the breath. Exhale, hold the breath. Again inhale and exhale with the Kumbhakas in between them. That is the Nadi Shodhana pranayama that is put. And the alternate nostril breathing, left to right and right to right, is another dimension of the Nadi Shodhana. Alternate nostril breathing. That is the dimensions that have been talked about in this thing. So, the essential feature of pranayama is normalize the breath, slow down the speed of the breath, and balance the breath between the two nostrils. That is the dimension which is very, very important. Therefore, when you go on doing it, the breath goes on reducing. The mark of progress of doing good pranayama is that day by day your breathing rate comes down. If it is 18 per minute, it may come for 15 per minute, may come down to 12 per minute. To have a concrete measure of that, you got the Brahmari time. That means you inhale fully, measure what is the length, maybe 20 seconds. Now work on that to increase the duration of the Brahmari time. And thereby there is a clear indication as to how you have to proceed. And with the practice of the different Kumbhakas, you shall be able to have longer and longer the Brahmari time. Whether it is the Vasishtha school or the Hatha Yoga school. In both these things, it is very necessary that we increase. That is the mark of progress. So when you slow down the breath, the mind also comes down. And all the tensions, stresses, anxieties, speed and the slavery, everything is going to come down. That's the dimension that's most important. For that, the bandhas, very important. Jalandhara bandha, Uddiyana bandha and Mula bandha. And we also use at that time the Chin mudra, Chinmaya mudra and the Adi mudra to deal with the abdominal, thoracic and these dimensions that we have. And thereby you will be able to do. And once the balance comes, there is going to be the balancing of the Ida and the Pingala in the Pranamaya Kosha. So you got the dimension which have been shown here as the three main nadis, the Chandra Nadi, the Surya Nadi, and the session we have the Sushumna Nadi, Ida, Pingala and Sushumna. Normally prana will be flowing essentially through the Ida and the Pingala and related to the left and the right nostrils. So there is an alternation of breath from left to right, right to left, once in 2.5 years, about 9 times in 24 hours, that is going to change. So the objective of pranayama is to slow down the breathing, bring the balance of the two nadis, and once you bring the balance, when you slow down, slowly the sushumna starts opening up. And that is known as the Kundalini Jagrati. That is transmutation of the gross pranic energy into the subtle Kundalini Shakti. And these are the Kundalini pathways that has been talked about. And initially it starts opening up the Mooladhara Chakra, then comes to the Swadhisthana, then the Manipura, then the Anahata, then the Vishuddhi, the Agna, and finally the Sahasrara. This is known as the Kundalini Yoga, and Pranayama talks about these dimensions. And these are the chakras, which are safety blocks. And as you start purifying, you start opening up the Mooladhara, it starts coming up. Then it will not go straight to the Sahasrara. It may turn you mad. Therefore, it stops with a safety wall. You have to further purify. You have to bring more balance and more energy, vitality, and thereby the next thing opens. And we have the special mantras along with these things that we use in the Kundalini Yoga using the Pranayama dimension. Therefore, this gives you the dimension of the Pranayama and the goals of Pranayama to reach the highest, that is the Samadhi using the Pranayama. This has been described in great detail in the second chapter of Hatha Pradipika of Swatmarama. Also, this has been talked about in the Ghelanda Samhita and other Hatha texts also. And that gives you a broad outline of the breathing system that we have and how to use the breathing system to elevate ourselves to the greater and greater heights of human excellence, moving towards the perfection itself. And that is the second chapter of Hatha Pradipika. And in the third chapter, he talks of the bandhas and the mudras. And finally, it is the samadhi, that is merger with the totality. That gives you the whole spectrum of Hatha Pradipika and gives us the Hatha Yoga dimension of these things. So, I wish you all the best and good luck. Dhanyavad.